Hi everyone, Darren Bauer here, and I will be delivering an informative speech about NASA. Do you know of any child who didn't dream of being an astronaut? I sure don't. Today, I am going to be providing some information about the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, better known as NASA. I will begin by giving you some brief history behind NASA, the how and why it came about. I will then lead into some of the most significant events in early NASA existence. I will follow up with the possible future and direction of NASA. NASA is an amazing organization that is at the forefront of today's technology. The core of NASA can be dated all the way back to the early 1900s. It originally began as the NACA, the National Advisory Committee of Aeronautics, in March 1915. Their primary mission was focused on military and civilian aviation through applied research. The NACA was absorbed by NASA on 29 July 1958 when President Eisenhower signed H.R. 12575, Public Law 85-567, National Aeronautics and Space Act of 1958. NASA was created due to the perceived threat to national security due to the Soviet Union's success with Sputnik and the U.S. failures with Project Vanguard. Sputnik 1 was sent into orbit on 4 October 1957, while Explorer 1 wasn't until 31 January 1958. NASA was realigned to strictly civilian control, and it streamlined the research and developmental phases. While still working with NASA, the United States military was able to focus priorities elsewhere amidst rising tensions during the Cold War. Dr. T. Keith Glennon was named the first administrator, and the whole administration consisted of 4 labs and 80 employees. Today, according to NASA.gov, they have 10 field centers, 7 test and research facilities, and employ over 18,000 people. It officially became operational 1 October 1958, and on 26 November 1958, it named their manned satellite program Project Mercury. Now that we have looked at some of NASA's history and origin, let's look at some of their early accomplishments. NASA has continued to accomplish amazing feats over the years. On 9 April 1959, nearly 6 months after naming the Project Mercury, the Astronaut Corps was announced. The 7 men were Lieutenant Colonel John H. Glenn, Jr., United States Marine Corps; Lieutenant Commander Walter M. Schirra, Jr., United States Navy; Lieutenant Commander Alan B. Shepard, Jr., United States Navy; Lieutenant M. Scott Carpenter, United States Navy; Captain L. Gordon Cooper, United States Air Force; Captain Virgil Grissom, United States Air Force; and Captain Donald Slayton, United States Air Force. Due to the significance of the event, the men were immediately identified as American heroes. On 5 May 1961, Freedom 7, the first piloted Mercury spacecraft carrying astronaut Alan B. Shepard, Jr., was launched from Cape Canaveral. While Shepard was the second human in space, he was the first American, and it was the first American spaceflight involving human beings. Yuri Gagarin of the Soviet Union was the first person in space on 12 April 1961. On 25 May 1961, President John F. Kennedy said, quote, "I believe this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to Earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space, and none will be so difficult or expensive to accomplish. This feat pushed the space race into high gear. In June 1965, the second piloted Gemini mission, Gemini 4, stayed in place for 4 days. During this mission, astronaut Edward H. White II performed the first spacewalk performed by an American. The first orbit of the Moon was from 21 to 27 December 1968. This mission was labeled Apollo 8, and Frank Borman, James A. Lovell Jr., and William A. Anders were on board. Without doubt, the greatest achievement of early NASA was the first lunar landing. Apollo 11 lifted off on July 16, 1969. On 20 July 1969, the lunar module carrying astronauts Neil Armstrong and Edward Aldrin landed on the lunar surface while Michael Collins orbited overhead in the Apollo command module. Note that Neil Armstrong almost missed out on being an astronaut altogether. According to a blog found on Voice of America News, Armstrong's application didn't arrive until a week after the deadline. Luckily for him, a friend working at the Space Center saw his application and snuck it into the group of applications being considered. Once on the Moon, Armstrong's famous phrase, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," rang around the nation. The pair of astronauts spent roughly 21 hours on the surface. A few things they left behind include an American flag, a plaque bearing the inscription, "Here men from Earth first set foot upon the Moon, July 1969 AD. We came in peace for all mankind." And of course, scientific instruments. All three astronauts returned to Earth on 24 July. With the completion of this mission, the space race officially ended. I could go on and on about the accomplishments of early NASA, but time does not permit. Now let's look at where NASA may be heading into the future. Recently, the Space Shuttle Discovery was retired by NASA. Many people in the nation believe that to be the end of a space era. However, NASA has no plans on slowing down. An article named "Future of Spaceflight," published by National Geographic, went into some detail describing the next generation spacecraft, the Orion. The Orion is projected to hold 4 astronauts and be capable of carrying out 3-week missions. The Orion will be able to provide the ability to visit the Moon's surface multiple times during one mission. NASA will also be able to continue focus on the International Space Station. They will ensure an American astronaut is there to continue scientific research. The space station holds a focal point for spacecraft refueling, life support systems, and advanced laboratories. With low orbit travel now being contracted out to commercial companies, NASA can refocus on deep space missions such as asteroids and Mars. NASA.gov states that they are working on technologies such as electric propulsion, refueling depots in orbit, radiation protection, and high reliability life support systems. This could mean many, many new advances to today's technologies. In closing, NASA is almost halfway to a century of existence, and the things they have accomplished is truly astonishing. They went from testing rockets to placing humans in orbit over Earth, to having humans walk on the Moon, and hopefully one day in the near future fly over and on Mars. We started out by learning how and why NASA began, followed by some significant events in early NASA history, and ended with what may be in store for the future of NASA. NASA will continue to be the frontrunner at the furthering of technology, science, and aeronautics. Thank you for listening.